Hello, 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 and welcome to the Ask Dr. Riley show. My name is Dr. Anissa Riley, and this is the show that you all have been waiting for. This is the episode that I know that you will enjoy probably more than any other episode that you have watched, simply because I have been blessed to be able to sit here with the illustrious mayor of the Jewel of Westchester, the city of Mount Vernon. So thank you, Mayor Patterson for agreeing to sit here with me for us to engage in conversation so we can help the peoples learn some things.
Amen.
So how are you?
I'm doing well, and yourself this morning?
I'm great. And just to get started, the theme for this season is identity. And I think that is something that the entire world is dealing with. Mm-hmm. So that people can understand what we're talking about when we say identity. What is your definition of identity?
My definition of identity is, the essence of who you are, not just your gender, not just your ethnicity, not whether you're married or not, but who you are as a person, how you operate, how you tick, how you function, how you move, how you impact the world, how you serve, how you live. Oftentimes we just, boil identity down to our dimensions of diversity. Mm-hmm. But I think our dimensions of diversity are how people define us. Mm-hmm. But your identity is how you define yourself.
And I think that is so interesting because I heard you make a clear delineation between what is happening in the external environment and how people have created this image about you. Mm-hmm. And some people operate in that image as their identity. And then you were very clear about the internal definition that we have about who we claim to be ourselves.
Yes.
So where do you live and how do you operate between those two? Because there's Mayor and then there's Shawyn.
Yes.
So how do you?
And so I think in the earlier stages of my career, I was a social worker, I was a program administrator, and those things defined me kind of more than I did. Mm. But as I became a CEO or an evangelist, and now a mayor and still an evangelist, I found far too often that people wanted to define me in those roles. And so I've really had to fight probably for the last 10 years to be Shawyn. I operate as a CEO. I am a mayor. I am an evangelist, but I'm a person. I'm not my titles. And oftentimes people just want to define you as that, treat you as that, even as a CEO. And just as a mayor, I want to clean my office sometimes, right? It helps to clear my head. I have a driver who picks me up every morning. Mm-hmm. But on days that I want to clear my head, cry, pray, worship, sing some old school hip hop, every once in a while on a Saturday or an evening, if I'm finished early, I tell my detail, I'm going. Where? North. Right? I'm not sure where I'm going. I'm going to look at trees and look at water and I'm going to drive because sometimes I just need to be by myself.
The mayor drives herself?
For myself. By myself, for myself. I've always been an extrovert, but I found out in these very, very public roles, I enjoy time alone now, right? Because I'm always with people from the time I wake up until the time I go to bed. And so I never liked going anywhere, not to the movies, not to the store, not for a ride. And now I seek out opportunities just to kind of be.
I didn't think we were going to go here this fast, but when you were talking, it just reminded me of Jesus. For those of you who follow me, follow the show, know that I'm a self-proclaimed Jesus girl. I identify as a Jesus girl. And when you talked about intentionally finding opportunities to get away, it reminded me of Jesus, how as a public figure, he was always out giving to people and healing and offering himself and pouring out the anointing, like you were saying, helping and being there. And then there were times he was like, I need to go pray. And the disciples were like, where you going? Like your detail. Where you going? And he was
Stay here.
I'm
going to go a little further.
Yes.
And I'm going to take time for me.
So that's what it just reminded me of. And I think that's important to maintain who we are authentically as individuals. So when you go intentionally away to separate,
Yes.
tell me what happens in that time, and then tell me what happens when you come back.
Oh, in that time, oftentimes it's driving.
Mm.
I might drive to a location. I might drive to water. And sometimes I might just drive. I love to drive. I love to drive long distances. If I could have time and drive from here to Georgia, I'd be good.
Not me.
And so for me, it's kind of restorative. I love nature. I was a Girl Scout. My grandmother is someone who caused me to love nature. So as I'm driving, there's always music. Music is always involved. It's very rarely just silence. So music.
Car concerts are the best.
Car concerts are the best. So it could be Fred Hammond or Richard Smallwood. It could be it's gospel. Or it could be some old school hip hop, and I'm listening to it. It could be some classic R&B. It just or sometimes jazz. It just depends on my mood. But music is involved, and oftentimes it starts off with gospel because sometimes I need to purge and cry the ugly cry in the car, which is also the altar. While I'm having my concert, and then after that, I'm able to get to my hip hop, some old school R&B, a little bit of jazz, and enjoy time with myself. Because I'm getting to know me more and more, and I'm okay with me.
I'm a firefighter.
A teacher.
I'm a farmer. I'm a barber.
A waitress.
A mom.
We're all part of your community.
Every day we move in and out of each other's busy lives.
It's easy to take for granted all the little moments that make up our everyday.
Some are good,
others not so much.
But that's life. It's when you experience a moment of uncertainty.
Something or someone's behavior that doesn't seem quite right.
These are the moments to take a pause.
Because if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not.
It's not about paranoia
or being afraid.
It's about standing up and protecting our communities.
One detail at a time.
Because a lot of little details can become a pattern.
We
trust our instincts.
Just like you should.
Because only you know what's not supposed to be in your everyday.
So protect your everyday.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Well, I'm looking good. Thank you. Just became a real ID. What's the plan? Impromptu road trip? Actually, the plan is to fly to New York for today's product launch, and then visit the family in California and cap it off with a girls' weekend in New Orleans. You really can just do all that. Sure, I'm a real ID, so I'm good to board any domestic flight. Speaking of which, gotta fly. Nice, enjoy. I'll be here.
Be your real ID self by May 7th, 2025. Find out how at tsa.gov/realid.
So are these respites, are these times away only connected to the job? Is it only connected to the position as mayor? Or do you find that these intentional times away really help in every area of your life?
It helps in every area of my life. I work usually about 18 hours a day.
Ooh, Jesus.
Right? 18 hours a day. And people say, well, on the weekends also? On the weekends, it's a hybrid. Sometimes I have to go to an event, and then there are other events that are community events that are also restorative. I'm a social worker. I'm a human services person. People ask me, what do I do for fun? I said, volunteer, right? Because there are times where I just want to be near the people. And if there's a cookout, if there's a giveaway, if there's a volunteer community cleanup, I know the groups that I can show up as Shawyn. And I know the groups where I get to walk in and they only see me as the mayor. And so I seek out those opportunities where I can be amongst my community and remember why I chose to be mayor, remember why I pursued this office, remember why I serve, because the politics, the budgets, the policies, the community work, all of that is here, but touching people directly. And having conversations that are not about potholes or streetlights are really restorative for me. And so while it might cause my schedule to be busy sometimes on a Saturday, I still enjoy those. And then on Sunday, it's churches. Whether it's my church or I'm visiting churches or other events, but it's very, very rarely a Sunday where I have less than 5 events. So I go 7 days a week. I go 7 days a week and I go really hard.
So all of that is grounded in Mayor. So where does Shawyn find her peace outside of the work of Mayor? Like, where does Shawyn find her peace? Where does Shawyn find out who she is authentically? Because the job of the mayor seems like it takes up a significant amount of your time, and you're finding places in there, but strip away Mayor, and then where does Shawyn fit in?
Oh, but in the midst of all of those things, in the midst of those 18 hours, I have friends, I have colleagues who are around me who I can be Shawyn, right? So very rarely do I get a day or two. So in the middle of the busy, a half an hour. My office is set up as an office/living room. I spend a lot of time there. I have surround sound. I have my TV. I have something to put my feet up. I have good books. I have candles. And so, there might be times if work is over, but I have an event, I'll have someone stop by and we're just chatting as I'm transitioning, going to different events. Before I was ever mayor. See, you're a Jesus girl, I'm a Jesus girl, but I'm also a workaholic.
Okay.
Right? And so way before I ever became mayor, I worked 18 hours a day.
Okay.
And 5 and 6 and 7 days a week.
Okay.
So that didn't just become how I operated as mayor. It's always been who I am. There have been times that it's been 5 years before I took a vacation. I grew up being a caretaker for my grandmother. I've done caretaking for my mom. So whether I was taking care of the community or taking care of family or raising a family, it's who I am. Like I said, I went to school to become a social worker. I just got a degree in who I am. And that's a person who loves people, and who gives and serves. So there's not a lot of pause. I'm excited because next week my staff has made sure there's nothing on my schedule.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there going, what am I going to do at this time? And I'm not going away. But, one day I'll probably clean my house. And, another day I might just come in and reorganize my office. And I've called some of my girlfriends and we'll go out and we'll chat. Another day I might just take a ride and go sit near water, even though it's cold. Bundle up, have a fire pit. I'm simple. I don't need a lot of glamour. When you're going to events 3 and 4 nights a week, and sometimes 2 and 3 events, and some of them are big ticket events, high profile, and some are community meetings. I don't require a lot of that in my own personal time. So for me, quiet is restorative.
So I heard you talk about, how you utilize your white space. You talked about playing music or cleaning your office, doing these 18 hours. Where did you get the understanding and the wisdom to utilize your white space in such ways that pour back into Shawyn, understanding you have all of this time? And I'm asking that because a lot of my viewers may be single moms. A lot of my viewers are people who have busy days as well. Busy, not in the way of you are describing being this public figure, but just busy. Just busy. Because people are busy.
People are busy.
Right? And then they say, I don't have time for me.
But that's why, I said it's not a day. Sometimes it's a half an hour. And a half an hour makes a difference. I also have a little blanket in my office.
A blanket?
I have a blanket.
I
have a fleece blanket and I have a weighted blanket. And every once in a while, I sit on my couch, I put on my weighted blanket, I light a candle, I put some music on in the background, and I just sit and I be. It may not sound like proper grammar,
we understand.
But sometimes you just have to be. And just to stop your mind from racing. As I talk to a lot of people and as I've experienced myself, for years, that after you stop moving around physically, When you do a lot of work that requires your mind, it's hard to stop your mind. And so I know a lot of people and a lot of executives who over the years have had to take sleeping medication. And so now some are taking CBD and other things like that to stop their mind at night, to get your mind to wind down, because your body can stop physically. But if your mind doesn't stop racing, you're not sleeping, you're not getting that good deep REM sleep, your mind is racing, you're sitting up in the middle of the night and taking notes, or you'll pop up when you go to the bathroom and you're sending emails and text messages. We're 24-hour people. And so we have to just find time and moments in between the grind of the day to stop and take a moment. I may not get a full day, I may not get a full week often, but I found that when I need to for me, things will stop. If I need to every once in a while cancel an appointment that is not critical, if the day just gets too much, and that's why it's important for me to have a good team around me, because my team knows me and they'll come and they'll be like, Mary, do you need a minute? I can rearrange this. We could reschedule this. And we sit and we look at my calendar.
The threat of child online exploitation has never been bigger.
In the 20 years I've been working, I've never seen this many leads come in.
We see that taking different forms, but essentially it's when an adult offender is targeting a juvenile in the online or digital environment with the ultimate goal of some sort of sexual victimization.
People don't know that this crime is happening at such an alarming rate because it is uncomfortable to talk about.
Bringing it to the forefront can help prevent the crime from happening in the first place.
One of the things that we always want parents to understand is predators go where the kids are. In the past, playgrounds, parks, public places, that's where offenders would go. Now, the digital environment is the playground for these kids.
The Know to Protect campaign will educate and empower children, teens, parents, trusted adults, and policymakers to prevent and combat online child sexual exploitation and abuse. It's never too late to start talking about this threat with kids and teens in your life. Taking a few simple steps can prevent your child from becoming the next victim. Join us and visit knowtoprotect.gov to learn more about what you can do to prevent online child exploitation and abuse.
And at home, so I've been married for 35 years.
Woo woo.
Right?
35.
35 years. My husband and I started dating freshman year at Howard. And we've been together.
HU? I'm sorry.
You know, right? Right? That's the thing. So, I'm gonna keep it a buck, right? I'm gonna keep it a buck. He has size 17 ring finger.
Size 17.
And he gives me amazing massages. Right, head to toe. He says, "Babe, don't worry." He says, "When you get home, I'm gonna put my paws on you." And so, good, a nice aromatherapy, oils and things of that nature, and that just helps to calm me down. And sometimes we'll sit. There's Netflix and chill moments. There's times where he's like, "I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go out. And I'm gonna just let you have some time." Or he'll, cook something for me, or he'll call my friends. And I have friends who know me. I have friends who know my patterns. They know I'm a workaholic. They've worked with me in different capacities, and I used to write grants, and I could stay in my office for 72 hours and write a grant, right? That's how I would push myself. And so they call and they'll speak to my staff, like, I haven't heard from my girl. What's going on with her? And they're like, she's been busy. Right? And they're like, do we need to make an appointment? And they will put themselves on my calendar, whether it's to come and sit with me, for us to go for a ride, for us to just have a conversation, just to transition.
So how do you know who to surround yourself with? Because you talked about having this circle at work. right? And then you talk about your circle at home. And I know there are people who are like, the people around me, if they could, then I wouldn't be. But you seem to have like this nice balance between home and work. Like, how did you come to that place? And I'm sure it wasn't always like that.
No, it has been. Look, I grew up with a mother who has had friends since elementary school. And there's about 8 to 10 of them. And they grew up as my aunties. She's had about 5 or 6 guys in her life who grew up as my uncles. And so that's something that I saw as normal.
Got you.
Good relationships.
Got you.
And so those are relationships that I've developed. I have a group that goes back from 7th grade. We call ourselves COC, the cutoff crew.
COC, the cutoff crew?
The cutoff crew. And we have a text group that sometimes it's every day. Sometimes my phone is buzzing, and we're just checking in with each other. And there's sometimes we'll go for a few days, but it's like just checking in, just updating, how's everyone going. I have friends from elementary school. I have friends that I gained in high school, friends that I've gained in college, friends that I gained when I worked for the city, when I worked for the Y, when I worked for the courts. You know, as I'm mayor, I have mayor friends around the country. When you're an honest person and you're genuine, you attract genuine people, right? I have a spirit of discernment, right? So I know phony people, and I've come to understand that if people can't carry your water, they'll spill your tea.
Your mayor saying, if people can't carry your water, they're going to spill your tea.
Right? But what I've also come to learn is that the truth of who I am is who I am, and you can't hurt me with my truth. So I'm a very transparent person. So I'm not worrying. You know, there's nothing in my life that's so secret and sacred that someone can hurt me with my truth. I've suffered with depression. I've suffered with anxiety. I've taken medication for it at times. You know, I've suffered with insomnia because, like I said, the mind is racing. You have lots and lots of pressures. And so people who are operating at my level of profession, for them to say that at one time or another there hasn't been some depression or some anxiety
that ain't true.
Or some insomnia, then they're lying to themselves and those around them. And you can't get help if that's how you operate. But there were times that I was afraid to speak my truth because people judged. But then I lived in great pain, right? And so I am in a constant state of healing and renewal because you have to shed the weight and the pressure and the stress. And the only way you're able to do that is when you're honest about it. And so the people who are around me, there's different levels of relationship. There's some people who you shop with. There's some people who you just talk chitter chatter with. And there's other people who you have close, who you have deep. And I'm actually fortunate to have relationships at all the different levels. And I know the difference. You know, and when you get a little mature and you know, you've had some people betray you, but not kill you. You learn the difference. And so you learn how to compartmentalize where you get your support. Every job I've ever had, I was the first. You know, I was the first woman, I was the youngest, I was the first Black person. So you just always felt like if I stumble, if I falter, then someone else is not going to get an opportunity. And so I always felt that I had to operate and make it happen even when the resources weren't there. You know, keep up this Black girl magic. Image, Black girl magic. But it's not Black girl magic, it's Black woman excellence.